Good morning, good morning. Happy May 5th, 2020. This is Alicia Marie Belshak, Life Mastery Consultant, and your guide for how to navigate the tough terrains of life and the uncertainties that we all are facing so that we can accomplish more, be more, and discover what our dreams really are in this life that we're living, and how to just deal with stuff, right? So, good morning. I apologize that we have run into some technical difficulties today. My video is not showing up, and the connection was really not very stable. So, I am tuning in a little bit later than I usually do, but I appreciate anyone who is around to show up and be a part of the conversation today. So just as a reminder, I like to come to you in the 10 o'clock hour Eastern time on this platform, a Facebook here at my Life Mastery page. And I usually do that at Tuesdays around 10 a.m. Eastern. So in that time frame, to say hello and check in and see how you are doing. And I do have the ability to bring comments and things up on the page on the screen. So please do type in on the Facebook page and share this with your friends so that we can be all a part of this conversation during this time. So we're just going to get organized here and show ourselves in a little bit. This is Life Mastery. And so we do it one day at a time. We do it one day at a time. And lately, the days have been a little extra full for me and a little extra stressful. How about you? Can you type into the chat and tell me what you're doing, how you're doing, how you're feeling, and where you're tuning in from today? And if you're watching live or on the replay, please let me know that too. I do look at the comments and I am here to assist. So anything that you put there, I probably will reply to. So welcome, welcome. Good morning. And as we tune in here, let's tune into a little bit of gratitude too. So go ahead and just tune into what would you be grateful for today? And what is it that is in your life that is good, even if things are a little shaky in a lot of places? Go ahead and put that in the comments, because I am able to show comments. So thanks again for tuning in with the technical difficulties, making it a little later than I had hoped for or planned. So where are you tuning in from today? And how are you doing with everything going on? These are the questions we're asking right now. Go ahead and put them in the comments. And also something that you're grateful for. Because gratitude puts us in harmony with more good and the abundance that really is ours all around. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So like I said, thank you for tuning in. It is a beautiful day here in Michigan, a little gray and overcast. This is your time to look and say hello and check in. I was really hoping to have a conversation today about this idea of standing firm when your world is shaking. And I apologize, my camera is not connecting to um, my browser in which I use this special platform so that I can put comments up on the screen. If you are live, go ahead and make sure you're watching here at my main public Facebook page for my work that I do as a speaker, coach, and writer. And that is this bit.ly short link for Life Coach Alicia Marie. And that's where you can be putting comments in so that we can have a two-way conversation. I can actually share with you what's going on and show what it is that people are saying. And we can have some laser coaching. We can have some opportunity to ask questions, get some clarification. My goal today is to just check in and to share a little bit about how the heck we handle life. Excuse me, right now. How the heck do we manage ourselves so that we are taming the chaos that seems to be all around us and become the eye of the storm? And I use these hashtags quite a lot, so go ahead and feel free to search for them on various platforms, specifically LinkedIn and Facebook, because you will find additional content and things that I have put out there over time that may be of help to you. So we are doing this conversation. I've been coming live in the 10 o'clock Eastern time frame. Today we're a little bit later than right on the dot, which happens depending on what technical difficulties we're having, and of course family and navigating the kids in the background. So I appreciate your patience, and again, just want to remind everyone that you can interact and put the comments up here on the screen when I see your comments. So be part of the conversation. Standing Firm When Your World is Shaking is normally a 4-week program that I have been certified in from Mary Morrissey, who is my mentor and direct trainer in my coaching certification. And as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic really hit my state, Michigan, right around March 10th, March 13th, I knew that it was my calling to come to you live at least once a week and share with you some of these principles that I teach in Standing Firm, but also other areas that I have, because Standing Firm is normally only a 4-week program to help you walk through those tough terrains and dark nights of the soul and really reframe them through your hero's journey into a new, more empowered story that you can take forward into dream building and making your life as masterful as possible. And I also knew that it was going to take more than 4 weeks to go through everything that we are experiencing here in the particular adventure that we're in. So I've gone through quite a lot of content that I've added and have mixed it up quite a bit and made it more of a flexible conversation, but around this idea that we are indeed in uncertain, unprecedented, historic times, and that we all have a lot on our plates in different ways, and the context in which we are living our life is drastically changed. No one can argue that. So standing firm when your world is shaking is the context for which we are having these conversations, typically in the 10 o'clock hour on Tuesdays. That's Eastern time. So join us live during that. And if you want to catch up on the content that I've already shared, you can find it on my Facebook page, which, like I said, is Life Coach bit.ly, Life Coach Alicia Marie, or you can go right to my YouTube channel and catch up all the archives there. I have a playlist, and that is at bit.ly, Life Mastery TV. And I always welcome comments on the page, so go ahead and put them live if you're interacting. And if you're interacting on the replay, that's okay too. Just go ahead and let me know. I want to know, how are you doing? How are you handling life right now? on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really great and 1 being kind of really awful. Where are you at? And where are you tuning in from? And are you watching live or on the replay? And we will be able to have a conversation that goes both ways. So we also tune into gratitude at the beginning of my conversations with people, because this is a time to really tune into what is good in our lives and what is most harmonious with the abundance that is all around us. So if you don't have a gratitude practice, please think about doing one. Invite you to experiment with that. It can be something very simple as in the moment, or it can be something more complicated where you have a journal you keep track every day, and there's different challenges you can do around that. But right now, let's tune into something you're grateful for, and go ahead and put that in the comments. I will and share this with your friends and family so that they can participate in the conversation too. And again, I'm sorry I don't have my camera working, but you can still be a part of this conversation. So what is something you are grateful for? Hello and welcome, right? So I will put in here, I am grateful myself for the wonderful opportunity that, technology provides to be able to talk to you here and have this conversation. What is it you're grateful for today? Go ahead and put that in the comments while we're talking. And I'm going to put it on the screen too, but I cannot see what I'm doing. So I'm grateful for the wonderful opportunity this technology brings to have conversations and stay connected all around the world. This is a global conversation that we are having, wouldn't you say? So go ahead and chat that in, and you too can have your comments up on the screen so we can be a part of this conversation. So let's recap a little bit as we tune into gratitude and we kind of move into this space. And I just want to remind us at the top here that whatever's going on in your life today or these last few weeks, that the content of our life, it really is the curriculum for our evolution. And it's a challenge when we feel particularly stretched and particularly at our wits' end, when we are dealing with maybe too many things, too many new changes. Sometimes we are forced into change, like we are with the current situation. And sometimes we are able to choose change and take steps forward in that way. And there are specific actions in either case that we can take, and specific mindsets that we can hold in order to really move ourselves in a way that is authentic and life-giving, and something that can move us into an even greater expression and version of ourselves and the life that we are here to build. So I really encourage you to think about what it is that you have been dealing with. Have you been dealing with some fear, frustration, failure? We really dove into this during the first week of our conversation, and we talked a lot about that. So I encourage you to go and check that out. And we're really practicing this concept of noticing what we're noticing in order to raise our awareness, to be able to see beyond the reaction that we're having, really, to be able to give ourselves some distance and time to think and feel, even in the moment. Really be present in the moment. That really enables us to begin to shift into greater awareness and the ability to then harness that awareness into transformative action. And that's where it's really important to remind ourselves that no matter what's going on, we have resources and we have skills and capabilities, and we can take a step. There is something we can do today. So practicing the principle of doing what we can with what we have right here, right now. What is it that you can do today to not only make your life better, but someone else's? Humans are wired in a way that we feel really good, and it actually boosts our dopamine, our success hormones that are in our brain to tell us that we're on the right track. We do that when we do things for other people. It's the number one way to shift your mood. If you, besides gratitude and being grateful for what it is we do have and we are experiencing, even in the middle of the problem, the next thing really is to do something for someone else. When your drive and your desire to do something for someone is bigger than the problem that you're facing, when your dream is bigger than the hurt that you're feeling, then it is a powerful move, a powerful, powerful place to be, because you can step into even bigger, a harnessing of that which you already are, because there is one fundamental truth that we are dealing with as we are standing firm when your world is shaking. And that is that you are stronger than any condition, circumstance, or situation that you're facing. We are all even stronger than dealing with life in a pandemic and what the fears around COVID-19 and our health might be. And that's not to deny the facts of life, that there is an enormous amount of tragedy and suffering and sadness out there. There's an enormous amount of somewhat chaos, certainly in the economy and maybe the political levels. But that doesn't mean that that is who you are. You are actually much, much more than that. And when you start to realize that you are not your problems, that you're not even your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you certainly are not what's going on in the things around you, whether that's the family members or what's on the news or what you perceive in your community or the world. These things are not you, right? You are more than that. And tapping into that inner power is really where you start to transform from victim into victor. And it's very important to notice what we're noticing in the process, because that's the only way we're going to know what patterns are at work and the only way we're going to be able to make change. So let's do what you can with what you have right where you are and ask yourself some powerful questions. What possible good is there here in today, in this week, in this situation? What could become because of this? What could be a good thing that happens? What's happening now? If you haven't had a chance to take stock, I encourage you, go ahead and write some things down, either now or afterwards, or share them in the comments if you feel so inclined. And tell us what good. We've been in this now for 7-8 weeks, depending on where you are in the world. And certainly here in the United States, that's the case. And you got to realize there has been something that's happened. What have you experienced that's good? Or what good do you yet anticipate from all the shifts and changes that have been happening in our daily life and our schedule? That would be really interesting to hear. And as a brief recap, we also talked one week about trust, and this idea that trust is something we have to have both for ourselves and with ourselves and with perhaps those closest to us and those that we're working with, and that we also need to trust the universe and trust that there is a higher order at work. And we are a part of that higher order. And what does it look like to take action with that in mind? To be able to release our resistance and tell ourselves the truth, to be able to really listen to the guidance that's coming from within in your intuition or the still small voice of spirit that's talking to you. There is more intelligence than our reasoned logical mind alone. And tapping into that higher order of intelligence, the non-linear intelligence, it can take us in places exponentially because it is not logically linear, right? So you can skip over steps sometimes just by having that hunch or listening to the signs that are around you. Man, 3 or 4 people have said a certain thing. Maybe I should consider that and work on that. So trusting yourself and trusting the signs and signals that are showing up in your life really help you to be able to launch yourself in the right direction. So go ahead and look at, I think it's week 2 that we talked a lot about that. And then we talked about how to pivot in a time of crisis, whether that's a personal crisis or one that's connected to a larger global or national crisis. We all experience times of our life that are dark nights of the soul. And for many people right now, losing your job is a kind of soul crushing experience if you are not prepared for it. And certainly, there's the economic component of it, the financial part, but there's also the mental and spiritual part, the emotional part, where if you had your identity very closely tied to being useful and having work in the world, suddenly that's changed and taken away from you. And now what? And now who are you? And now what action? How do you structure your day? These are opportunities for immense growth and change, but also it presents a challenge to our human conditioned side of the status quo. So this is your chance to pivot. And we talked about how I lived in a model of push and procrastinate for a long, long time, in which it was go, go, go and do all this stuff, but it wasn't necessarily from a place that gave balance or integrated in a way that created a wholesome lifestyle. And so I would end up crashing. And that would be the procrastinate part, because now lethargy would set in, sometimes depression. I wouldn't have energy. I'd feel bad about the things I wasn't getting done. And I'd feel bad that I didn't have the energy to do the things that I wanted to do, let alone should do. And things piled up. And you get overwhelmed, and you get a couple setbacks in that, and then you're even further behind. And then you get it kind of to the point where you pull your bootstraps up and you get going and you start tackling the major urgent problems of the day. And then what happens? You're still behind. There's too much because you're in go, go, go mode, and that's overwhelm and pushing and doing even and stretching beyond your limits when you really are already still maybe not quite recovered from the last round. And then what happens? You crash and you get into procrastinate again. So that was the story of my life for many years. And I know people live in an adrenaline mode that this can happen. It has actual physical detrimental side effects. The hormones that are created, the serotonin that's depleted, you can build more, but if you don't have the basic building blocks, then you are at a kind of deficit. In the meantime, adrenaline is kicking in gear, and you've got cortisol and all the stress hormones, and that's creating negative side effects in your physical health as well. So you end up in a biochemical mess, and that procrastination just gets perpetuated. So we talked about how to pivot in times of crisis and move out of this model of push and procrastinate. And we talked about that as an acronym. That pivot means to look at our perception on what is our paradigm that's going on. What's the pattern at work? And for me, that was push and procrastinate. And we talked about taking inventory and listening for those inspired ideas so that we could use the information at hand in a way that would propel us forward and not repeat the problems of the past. We talked about having a vision and why that is so important. And we also talked about staying open to opportunity and learning to use tools of transformation. Because the bottom line is, this is our time to shine. Every day, in every way, I am better and better. And that's a great affirmation to tell yourself at any time, multiple times a day. Because while we're using the curriculum of life and whatever this school of life is presenting us in order to grow and change and evolve and become better, it can be really, really tough. But we won't get better if we allow ourselves to fall into old habits and back into the familiar and back into the, for me, push and procrastinate. Or perhaps for you, it's the I won't ever get anything anywhere, so why bother, right? There's a lot of different mindsets we can get ourselves into. But every day in every way, I'm better and better. And I can celebrate the small successes. I hope you can too, because how do we navigate life, whether we're dealing with crisis or not, really matters with the conditioned habits that we give ourselves. How do we condition ourselves as if we're running a marathon? This is a time of marathon, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a time to be sprinting. We have to realize that. And if you have been living your life in a sprint mode, you may find yourself completely out of breath at this moment and a little bit sore and shaky and wobbly. And we're just at mile 5 or 10. I don't even know where we are in the marathon, but we're certainly not halfway yet. There's a lot to go yet. So to tell ourselves that we can run the rest of this marathon and to condition ourselves, we got to start training differently. And one way to do that is to begin with this concept that every day, in every way, I can be better and better. And I am. Last week, we were talking about the hero's journey and lessons that I learned from a Shaolin master. And it was a really fun conversation. So if you were able to be a part of that, check it out. If you weren't, I appreciate those who were participating because we had some good conversation. And the basic idea was that The Hero with 1,000 Faces was written by Joseph Campbell, and he really discussed what goes into the hero's journey. You are on a hero's journey. I am on a hero's journey. And we absolutely will go through different phases that include the departure, leaving behind what we've known, to answer the call into the unknown, to answer the call into crisis and become the hero, to solve the day, save the day. And through that, we go through an initiation process, because who you are today cannot be the hero that returns later. You have to grow, you have to change, and we will have the road of trials during that. So think about the road of trials you're currently on, and how are you handling today? How are you handling life today? And then we come back different. And hopefully, with that previous idea, we come back better and better every day in every way. And the hero returns triumphant and victorious, and having vanquished some of their foibles and certainly their enemies, and what it is that's come in your life to seem like an obstacle or seem like the thing to overcome. It's actually your chance to step up and shine, to become the hero and vanquish. It reminds me, actually, in this moment, I didn't plan on this, but it reminds me of the Jabberwocky, if you have ever heard that poem by Lewis Carroll. And he says, he goes off to fight this imaginary monster, the Jabberwocky. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker snack. And with his head, he went galumping back. So it's your turn to return. And I also talked about the 5 hindrances that get in the way of self-mastery, something that I learned from a Shaolin master. And I really liked his approach, so you can check out that. But basically, our physical nature gets in the way with the pleasures of the day, as well as the things that we avoid, the aversion. And, you don't like the journey you're on, so you avoid taking the steps. We also get dull of mind and not practice sharpening the saw, as Stephen Covey would say, and we become heavy with depression or um, generally not feeling good with ourselves, some sort of malaise. And we can also get restless. That gets in the way of becoming the most masterful person. Restlessness, that's that push, 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 go, 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 or just spinning on whatever is the problem in front of us and not quite settling into a place where we can actually build mastery. And of course, being doubtful and skeptical that we're going to even make any progress or that we are even capable. So these are all things that can get in our way. So it was a great conversation last week. So, excuse me. What about this week? What about this week? How are you doing? What would be best to talk about for you and help you through these uncertain times for many, many people? So here's something to consider. Where are you at in your comfortability with being uncomfortable? Are you willing and able and open to being uncomfortable? The reason I ask is because we're all in a place where we're going to be uncomfortable. And the highly successful people I know are willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth. Not to be panicking, right? But willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth. Are you willing, are you willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of your growth and your growth in the camaraderie of the universe and those around you? Because if you are, there's a vast array of support waiting for you. And you are part of the solution that the world is actually crying out for. Don't ask what the world needs. Find what makes you come alive and do that. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. That's a quote from the mentor for Martin Luther King. I'm trying to remember his name right now. But it's your job to become the very best you that you can be and deliver the thing that is only yours to deliver. Now, especially, now more than ever, this is your time. Because there's only one thing happening, and that is the entirety of everything happening. The one thing happening is all that there is, the oneness, the wholeness, the infinite intelligence that is all around us. And you have power today. You have the power of decision. You have the power to make a decision to do something. And highly successful people make decisions quickly and with a degree of confidence. So the power of decision. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can make a decision to learn and to get as much information as reasonably possible in a relatively short period of time to make the best decision you can. You can always make another decision again. There really isn't a mistake. You just make a new decision if you didn't like how it turned out. It's an experiment. The best decisions are those that bring us closer to that which we really would love in our life. So have you asked yourself, what would I really love? The power of decision means you are able to make decisions in alignment with where you're going, following your guide, your blueprint, your North Star. And you put some parameters so that you keep yourself accountable and keep moving forward. You put a by when, put it in your calendar, give yourself a deadline, break down the steps, put it in your action plan for each and every day so that little bit by little bit, 5 minutes a day can make a difference. But put in your action steps that support you in those decisions that you've made so that you have your follow through. And we want to make sure that there is this idea of the power of alignment. What is it you are working towards so that your decisions can support it? Are you in alignment with your core values and who you really are and who you really are bringing into this world? The goals and ambitions you have, if they are out of alignment with your highest nature and your highest calling, there will be resistance. You will feel like you're procrastinating and you don't really understand why. Because unconsciously, there's a part of you that says, you know what, this is not, there's a conflict here. And one piece of you is going to win out over the other. So make sure you're in alignment. And it's okay if you have core values that are in conflict to recalibrate those and bring them into alignment. You can remove the blocks and the limiting beliefs and the things that are kind of getting in the way so that you can start to bring some coherence into it. For instance, if I want a goal, let's say I have a goal of earning more money and advancing my career, which people are doing even in the middle of this COVID-19 situation, by the way. There are lots of people who've lost their jobs, but there are lots of new jobs that are still looking for people and going virtual that were not virtual before. So let's start there with where am I at even thinking about jobs? And that there isn't a job, that I perceive a lack of jobs. That is a perception. There may not be, in fact, on the level of fact, jobs for each and every person right now easily available, but that doesn't mean there isn't a job for you, that you can't create opportunity or take advantage of opportunity. So let's get in alignment with that there actually is abundance here. There could be opportunity here for you to create something of your own that's never been created before. And in doing so, who knows what could happen? You could actually maybe be the person that creates jobs for other people. We don't have the full scope of what's possible in front of us. We don't see how it's going to turn out. We are not given omniscient powers, but we do have the power of decision today. And we do have the power to align ourselves in such a way that we can be a force for good and a force for exponential growth. Sustainable growth is even better because that's growth that takes into account the entire system, the planet, as well as our own abilities. So what if you were the person that was able to have a dream that took you in a place that actually grew jobs for yourself and others? So let's put ourselves in alignment with the idea of abundance. There's more possibility and opportunity than we actually have the ability to imagine and see sometimes. And put ourselves in alignment with this idea that, let's say I have this goal of creating a more income or a better career or more jobs for other people or whatever. And I also have a core value of being close with my friends and family, that they're really important too. If that's the case, and I perceive that they make a certain amount of money, they live a certain kind of lifestyle, if I perceive that if I go outside of that parameter, that I'll somehow be outshining them, or they wouldn't like me anymore, that I'd be the outsider, I would lose friends, I would lose love. If that becomes an unconscious belief or thought, it will absolutely stop you because your core values are not in alignment. It will absolutely stop you. You will subconsciously sabotage yourself from the success you truly desire in the outer expression of your work in the world and your career and the financial income that brings. Because you're afraid deep down that doing so, that somehow getting bigger and better than those around you in those different parameters would somehow put your relationship in danger. And if you value relationship over money, even though you may still value money and success, your subconscious will absolutely hold the hierarchy and help you keep your relationship. So overcoming those limiting beliefs and thoughts are part of becoming more in alignment with who you really are. And who you really are is part of this recognition that you need to have, the great I am. You are part of all that there is, the oneness, the wholeness. There is no division. And when we can get to that place, to not only know that that's true, but also be able to live and act as if that's true and come from that, even though we're still human and we're coming from our limited perspective, but to know that you are part of it, you really are fully sourced. Then we get to step into the truth that there is discernment available to us. Just like we did in the power of aligning our core values in this example. The truth is, my friends, my family, if they really loved me, wouldn't they want me to be successful? Wouldn't they support me? If they really loved me, wouldn't that be a sign of love? If I would love them so much that I would want to see them successful and happy. So wouldn't the truth be that they would be the other way? And if it isn't, are those friends I really want to have anyway? So you can see that's powerful to align ourselves. And then you let go, release and let go. Because even while we're working forward towards the dream and the desire, the goal, we don't really have control over every step of the way, do we? But let go and know that it's in process. We are in process. And then be grateful. As we talked at the top of our conversation today, gratitude puts us in harmony with this core generative state where we can be not only highly attuned to the abundance that already is around us and the abundance that may still yet be a potential available, but we can be grounded and there becomes a calmness, a knowingness that all is well. I am grateful even in the middle of the problem. So how do we calibrate ourselves? We have to have one more tool here, guys. The power of question. You need to be able to recalibrate and calibrate as we go along. As I said, we're running a marathon. You're running a marathon. And if you have not been practicing, if you have not been conditioning yourself, if you haven't run the first few miles and taken a break and then stretched, and then, next week done the next mile, right? Gone a little further, a little farther, you will not be ready. You'll be finding yourself weak and out of breath. So the discipline that we have to look at it is to train the mind with the power of the question. Starting with knowing that every question actually has to have an answer by nature. And every problem or apparent problem has a solution. Einstein once said, give me a life or death situation and an hour to solve it. I will spend 55 minutes coming up with the question to ask, the right question to ask, because then the solution will become clear and I will be able to solve it in the last 5 minutes. That was his thought process and how powerful that would be. So in essence, training ourselves to ask highly calibrated, powerful questions that reflect the highest possibility for our lives and the good of those around us, and maybe even the good for the whole world. Imagine what that could be like. Because then we will find ourselves asking questions that take us in a direction, especially when we're aligning it with our dream, aligning it with the nature of who we know we really are, and making powerful decisions from that information, from the question. The answer to the question you ask really depends on the question in the first place. And the answer will come in 360 degrees all around you. It will come in conversations. It will come in an email or a TV show, bit of information you just see on the screen. It will come in signs that you happen to drive by, and suddenly your brain says, aha, and you interpret it differently. The signs and signals are all around if you're ready to listen and be in harmony with the questions and the answers that are seeking to come through you. So one of the most powerful, highly calibrated questions that you can ask is not why is this happening, but what would I love? What would I love? What would I love my life to look like when all of this dust settles? What would I love the world to look like? The economy, the political landscape. I can be a small part of that, or in some way play my role. What would I love? And dream big, bigger than we've ever dreamed before. Because the world needs now heroes who are willing to go on the road of trials, who are willing to slay the monsters and vanquish the evil, to do the things that no one else is willing to do in order to make a difference and change the world. Do not ask what the world needs. Ask what brings you alive. In other words, what would I love? And do that. Because what the world needs now is more people who have come alive. So what would I love? And a sister to that is a great question to ask whenever you're in conflict, or you're in a conversation, or you're wondering what kind of decision to make. And that is simply, what would love do here? Perhaps love would turn off the news and start taking action in the realm that you have control over. Perhaps love would be reaching out to your neighbors or to someone who's lonely and giving them the consolation to know that they're not forgotten. Perhaps love would be listening to the person who has completely different viewpoint than you, and kind of maybe even might sound a little crazy to you, but you're willing to listen. You don't have to agree, and you don't have to argue. Concept. What if you were to just listen, holding steady state that you know what you know, and this other person has something to share, whether it's spot on or not. Sometimes people just need to be heard rather than escalating the problem. What would happen if love were to listen through you? I had that experience yesterday, actually. I was in a situation where we were taking a hike, myself and my two of my kids, younger ones. We were in the woods, and we ended up running into someone else in the woods on the trail. And we had lovely conversations here and there from a distance. And he was looking for morel mushrooms, and we were doing our nature walk biology lessons and adventuring, crossing rivers and streams on logs. And the kids had a great time. And the sun was gorgeous, and the spring was out, and all the flowers. And he forgot his bag and came back. And somehow we accidentally, in that conversation, ended up talking about the coronavirus and what was going on, and the beliefs that he had, and the beliefs that he believed were factual. And most of it was antithesis to the knowledge that I had and the understanding I have of the world and how it's working. And it wasn't my job to convince him that his theories that the virus wasn't even real was true or not true. Because within a minute or two, I realized that that wasn't going to get me anywhere. That wasn't going to do anything. It wasn't going to change things. But the interesting thing is, by listening, by holding steady state, that I knew what I knew and that I was going to be okay no matter what, and that I could generate a field of love and compassion and open-mindedness, I could actually listen and ask some poignant questions. And eventually we got to a place where it turns out fundamentally, once you get past all the human muck and the human mess and the arguing over what is real and what is not real, what is fact, what is not fact, what is science, what is not science, what is truth. Pontius Pilate said that, right? When he was in his situation with Jesus. What is truth? So it's an interesting thought. We got to a place in our conversation, this gentleman and myself, where it was clear he actually believed there was a higher good for humanity and that we really were all in this together. And there we could absolutely and fundamentally agree that this thing called it, he called it eternity, we were a part of that, and that we were here to do something, to change, to be better. Fundamentally, that's what he wanted. It's just we get bogged down into the nitty-gritty of the facts, quote unquote, of what that looks like. But there you go, an example of how when you pause and just presence, what would love do here? Love wouldn't argue over what is science. Love would simply say, what do we have in common and how can we get there? And in the highest, most profound level, deeply, we were in agreement and we left that conversation feeling lifted up. But not because he thought he was open-minded, but because I actually presenced what it looked like, what it was to be open-minded. So what would you love in your life? What would you love in your relationships? What would you love in the work that you do in the world? What would you love in the way you spend your time and money and feel freedom? What would you love? Spend some time with that this week, because how we deal with life and how we get through what we're dealing with really depends on what it is we're looking at. And we can use the power of question to uplift ourselves into a new realm and really calibrate ourselves in a direction that is ultimately in alignment with who we really are and who we really desire to become and what we're here to do and express. And then we can make a powerful decision. And therein, that single mental move propels you in directions you never knew possible, and yet opens up doors beyond your wildest imagination, but only if you're willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth. So, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful that you were here. I'm so grateful that you were participating. And this is a conversation we will continue to have every week in and around the 10 a.m. Eastern Time hour, give or take. Technology challenges like today and family in the background. So again, I really, really, really appreciate you joining in and being a part of the conversation. If you want to catch up and take this conversation even further, I'm actually feeling called at this point to share with you a gift to go one step deeper or 10 steps deeper, depending on where you're at. And that is to book a complimentary session with me. We're going to have a breakthrough session and get you where you need to go, get you those powerful questions Because that's one thing, if anything, that's something I'm super good at, is asking really powerful questions. And that comes from my scientific training, my journalism training, and my life mastery coaching training as well. So it's this perfect little center that I live in at the nexus of ideas. So let's get you going with something marvelous by asking some powerful questions, getting you aligned with that which you would love to create, and coming up with the steps to do that. The power of decision is waiting for you. So the place to do that at is very simply to go to this. I'm putting it on the screen, but it's giving me a little hard time. So mylifemastery.youcanbook.me. So go there and schedule a time that works for you to have a breakthrough call. And this is 100% give on my part. I'm just feeling like we're doing these weekly conversations as a public service to get you moving through the uncomfortableness that is our current condition and into something that's greater and bigger with the opportunity to grow. And we take the lessons of today's conversation even further simply by having a deeper conversation one-on-one. And it's normally valued at $250, but I am just giving these away again as a part of a public service. So we have to move this world forward, and we can only do that when we first move ourselves forward. So take a moment and use the power of decision to get yourself a step in the right direction. Decide today that this moment, this could be the time when I draw the line in the sand and I decide I am not going to go through this experience without getting everything it has to offer me so that I can be my very best on the other side. Decide today that this could be your moment to make all the difference in the world. And join me for a free conversation, a free breakthrough session where we can talk about where you are now and where you want to be and how you can get there and the steps in between. So go to My Life Mastery. You can book.me and get on my calendar to do that. We don't want you left behind. And for those of you also wanting to take it even further, I have a free download available that helps you leap into action. I had written it at the beginning of the year so we could go into 2020 with a powerful move. 20 of them, in fact, 20 actionable items that you can do at home, free of charge, and get you moving in the right direction. And then, of course, it was leap year this year, so it just seemed appropriate that we would be leaping into action. Little did I know we were going to be dealing with a pandemic and everything at the time I wrote it. But it's interesting because really the actions, the activities, the steps in there are really perfectly aligned to help you take action no matter what's going on around you. It really could be called using crisis to turn yourself inside out and become a better person. But it's about all these steps to help you go in the right direction so that you can really move from react into create. And we really talked about that in a different Facebook Live a while back. So join me every week in the 10 o'clock Eastern hour to get connected and learn how we can navigate these uncertain times and tough terrains so we can show up powerfully as our best selves so that we can grow and be willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth, and so that we can use the content of our lives, whatever's going on around us, as the curriculum of evolution, of our own evolution. As my mentor and certified trainer, Mary Morrissey, said, she's the one that trained me in the original Standing Firm program, which, as I've said at the beginning, is normally 4 weeks. But we're doing it as if it is ongoing. So those of you who are watching, do you have any comments or anything you can add? If you put that in the put it in the comments there, I'll be able to see it and share it. So let us know what's going on. Because I'm grateful to have the wonderful opportunity to have this technology that brings our conversations together and to stay connected. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for all of that. You are all that you do. Keep moving forward with gratitude and know that you really can be the eye of the storm and help tame this chaos that is life and you and all that is going on around you. I hope you join me to go deeper in our conversation with a breakthrough call. And I hope that you download the Leap into Action booklet at bit.ly, Leap into Action 2020. So for this week, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay hopeful. And I will talk to you next Tuesday, if not sooner. Bye.